I do right now, though, want to bring in Bill Ackman on the phone. He took to Twitter today to urge the president to take more dramatic measures to stop the spread of the virus. Bill, I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
A number of ideas you put forth. I'm going to read one of them for our viewers to start. Mr. President, the only answer is to shut down the country for the next 30 days and close the borders, you say. Tell all Americans that you are putting us on an extended spring break at home with family, keeping only essential services open. The government pays wages until we reopen. I know from our conversations that you have been worried for some time. How did it manifest today with these tweets and going public?
Well, maybe just a little bit of context. You know, I'm an optimist, but beginning in, I don't know, late January, I was getting increasingly bearish, and I woke up with a nightmare. And my nightmare was you have this virus that replicates and infects incredibly rapidly. You know, each person infects 2.5 people, each of whom infect 2.5 people. You know, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 16, 16, 256, 65,000. You get to just massive, massive numbers. I'm watching this thing roll out in China. It kills, 1 to 2% of the people. In China, the number's been closer to 4. People think that's because the health system's been overwhelmed, but 1 to 2% means friends and family are going to die. The concentration was, the effect were sort of older people with longer cardiac conditions. I have a father who's almost 81. He had lung cancer. He lost 2/3 of his lung capacity as a result of surgery. He's got some health issues. And you have a virus. The other thing that really scared me is, unlike the flu, where when you're sick, you know you have it, here you go as much as 2 weeks without showing any symptoms, or maybe a little bit of a cold. Meanwhile, you're incredibly infectious. And I thought the combination of that, the fact that the virus lives on surfaces for as much as 9 days, if we believe what we're reading, means this thing can spread everywhere. And when China shut down Wuhan, they told people, 12 hours from now, we're going to shut down Wuhan. Well, what happened? 5 million people left Wuhan. And 5 million people dispersed around China, and 5 million people dispersed around the world. And it seeded the virus. And I think people are just not used to thinking about exponential compounding on a daily basis. In the beginning, you don't see anything. And I think the fact people press reports that it only killed old people, it only killed sick people. I think it made most of the country not particularly concerned. I think the fact that 99% of the people lived made most of the people not concerned. The fact that it was in China and it was like far away, and Chinese have unusual dietary habits. They eat some things we don't eat. I just think all of these things made people not take it seriously. But when I did the math, I said, the laws of probability tell me this thing is going to be everywhere. Everyone, 50% of the world is going to get infected. And I sort of rolled this thing forward, and I said, it's just a matter of time.
Do you take comfort in some of the steps that have been taken? It certainly appears as though our response now from a federal level is much better than it was initially. I think we can all admit and take comfort that it is ramped up now. What about the steps that have been taken? The city in which you live is considering a shelter-at-home declaration.
I think Governor Cuomo has done a superb job, and I think the White House, the president, the vice president are finally taking a lot of the necessary steps, but it's not enough. And the reason why it's not enough is the only way what's going to happen if we continue the way we are operating is until a vaccine is manufactured, distributed, and injected, we will go through a depression-era period in the country, and millions of people will die around the globe, and as many as 1 million Americans are going to die. And it's just math, okay? And the problem is, if you lock down New York, what will happen is Governor Cuomo will say, okay, we're locking down New York. There was a rumor of that. So what did everyone do? Everyone got out of New York, okay, went somewhere else because no one wants to be locked down. And they spread the virus. And they're not doing it, to cause anyone harm. They just don't even know that they're infected. And by the way, if you look at the data from Korea, there's some very interesting evidence that suggests that people from 20 to 30 are the massive spreaders. The so-called R0, the reproduction number of the virus, I think is much higher, particularly in that group of people. So you have a group of people that are 20 to 30, the millennials, they're going out, they're having fun, they don't feel sick, not afraid of anything, and they are spreading this everywhere. And by the way, when the colleges shut down, they all go on spring break, and they spread it everywhere. And so I think there's a very high probability that millions of Americans have the virus. And I'll give you some interesting, anecdotal data points. So we took very aggressive measures at Pershing Square, because I was obviously very bearish on this. On February 27th, I told the firm that we're going to work from home. We have a small firm. We've got 50 people. We already have 2 people. Again, we've been working from home for 3 weeks. We have 2 people out of 50 that are likely to have the coronavirus based on their symptoms. We're waiting for outcomes. In one case for a test. The other one is not can't get a test, or we're in a place where it's more difficult for them to get a test. But that's kind of 4% of our company taking aggressive measures. So it's incredibly widespread. It's deadly. And as we heard on the president's announcement, and this is, if you actually follow Twitter, this was out a few days ago, it's killing young people. It's killing healthy people, right? And I think if originally what happened, if this broke out in New York and it was killing babies, okay, the country would not have taken the approach it has taken, okay? But that is the approach that we have to take. Assume it's going to kill your child, okay? Let's assume it's got a 1 in 50 chance of killing your child, and operate accordingly. So the very simple answer is, and by the way, it's happening. The mental model I used is by February, Chinatown, in my view, was a microcosm for the country. What happened in Chinatown? Well, the one thing people did is they stopped going to Chinatown because they were afraid of, maybe people coming home from China and they didn't want to eat Chinese food. Okay, so Chinatown, restaurant revenues went down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And what happens? Well, the busboy loses his job. The guy doing dishes, the waiters lose their job. The number 2 chef, the chef, the owner has to shut the place. The suppliers stop, providing supplies, right? The banks that lend to that community start getting defaulted on loans. Every landlord in China has gotten a call from their tenant who says, I'm sorry, I can't pay rent. I have no revenues coming in. And I said, look, this is a model for the country. And that's happening now, right? The canary in the coal mine, and by the way, it's not just, and the other thing that happens, of course, the entrepreneur that owns 10 Chinese restaurants in Chinatown, okay, he's also devastated. So it starts with the bottom, and it works its way through to the top, okay? And the same thing's happening right now in our country, right? It starts with the guy who owns a Embassy Suites hotel, okay? He's wiped out, right? You've got, when you go from 80% occupied to 0, okay, you're toast. You go down to 50%, you're toast, but you're certainly toast when you go to 0. So he defaults. But now, take a look at Hilton stock. We're a major shareholder of Hilton. Hilton is the canary in the coal mine. This is an incredibly well-capitalized, amazing, dominant global company that actually doesn't own many hotels. It just collects royalties. It's down from like 120 to 50. Okay, it's going to 0. Okay, along with every other hotel company in the world. Park Hotels and Resorts. This, stock's down from 33 to 4. This is a spinoff from Hilton. Why is it down from 33 to 4? Because every hotel is going to be shut down in the country. Every one.
Hang on just 1 second. You say Hilton is going to 0? I mean...
Again, I'm a major shareholder. What I'm saying is, if we allow this to continue the way we allow it to continue, okay, every hotel company in the world, okay, is done. Okay, because no business can survive a period of 18 months without revenue, okay? And stick with me, and that's what happens, okay, if you operate the way we're operating now, okay? Now, let me give you, so that's a very, very bearish thought, okay? And I've been super bearish, but I got bullish, okay? And the reason why I got bullish, and I've been aggressively buying stocks, including Hilton, today, okay? And I've been buying all the way down, Hilton, restaurant brands, Starbucks, walk your way through the only stocks I'm not buying are companies who are on the board and I'm restricted. But the reason why is the only answer for the world is to shut the world for 30 days. Okay, it's so simple, okay? And it's happening slowly on a rolling basis, country by country. But if you take the model from China, what did we learn from China? The thing got out of control, they had no warning. Okay, but the Chinese took incredibly aggressive measures, and they shut the economy. They absolutely shut the economy in Wuhan. They shut the economy anywhere there was a virus, and they shut the economy for weeks. And then they're gradually reopening the economy. And the Chinese are incredibly disciplined. They wear masks. They practice social distancing, and they're President Xi is now toggling between controlling the spread of the virus and reopening the economy, okay? And that can work. And you look at how South Korea has handled this and how Singapore has handled this. But you need a global effort where every country in the world at the same time says, for the next 30 days, it's basically spend time with your family. My Twitter feed, last time I tweeted was probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I said, President, all that has to happen is the president goes on TV. By the way, he doesn't need anyone else by his side. He goes on TV, he sits down with, in front of the American people, and he says, here's what we need to do to defeat the virus. We got an invisible, silent, deadly enemy. Okay, how do we kill it? Everyone just goes home. You sit on the couch. Just stick with me for a second. You sit on the couch. You watch Netflix. You order in Chipotle, and you stay there for a month, and you spend time with your loved ones. Okay, and the virus will die. Okay, and during that period of time, the federal government steps in and supports every American that needs help. Okay, we have a rent holiday. No one needs to collect any rent. No one needs to collect any interest. No one needs to collect any taxes. The government, mails checks to people so that people can pay for food. You keep grocery stores open. You keep the drug stores open. You keep fast food open because people get tired of mom's cooking after a couple of weeks. And then anyone who's out in the public domain wears masks, minimizes interactions, and in a month we're done with this. And by the way, the country survives, the economy survives. If we do this, we're just incrementally over time until there's a vaccine, we're done. Okay, and what will happen is, the hotel industry and the restaurant industry will go bankrupt first. Boeing is, on the brink. Okay, Boeing will not survive without a government bailout. Okay, so look at airline industry, auto industry, restaurant industry, hotel industry. Capitalism does not work in an 18-month shutdown. Capitalism can work in a 30-day shutdown. And we got to do the 30-day shutdown. And if the president has to bring out the National Guard to keep people in their homes, which I don't think he will need to do, he should do it.
We will see if it gets to that point. I have to say, I think we're all going through the same range of emotions, if you want to call them that, by virtue of the way you're thinking about this. We're, I think, collectively, Bill, so worried that your worst expectations or fears are going to come true, but at the same time, trying collectively, thinking that we're going to come out better on the other side, as represented by your willingness to go into the market today and buy stocks because you think that America is still going to be a great place on the other side of this. It's just so hard at points to see that rainbow when we're all so concerned about what's happening here.
This is a case where you rip the Band-Aid off. And by the way, the president talked about shared sacrifice. Okay, the only shared sacrifice that's going on right now is the healthcare community. Okay, the nurses, the doctors, the people taking care of patients. Okay, those people are making enormous sacrifices. What would the president be asking the American people to do? He's not saying, he's not saying to storm the beaches at Normandy, right? He's saying, go home. Go home. Spend a month with your family, okay? And I know for some families that's a hardship, okay? But it's nothing. Go home. Take a deep breath. Spend time with loved ones. Take care of your children, okay? Don't worry. No landlord's going to collect rent, from anyone who can't afford to pay it. The government's going to step in and fund, send you money so you can buy food. We keep the supermarkets open. We keep the drugstores open. We keep the hospitals open. We keep our national defense working. And yes, we have to shut the borders, okay? And then 30 days later, the virus is gone in America, largely gone in America. And then we have to be careful, okay, for the next 12 to 18 months until we have a vaccine. And by careful, I mean we have to practice social distancing. We don't shake hands. We don't hug and kiss. We wear masks, and we test like crazy, okay? We need a test where in 5 minutes you can tell whether you have the virus. And, think about the flu. The reason why the flu is not so dangerous and not nearly as scary is because when people get sick, they stay home. And by staying home, they don't pass it on to people. What's happening here is you have a 20-year-old, you look at the beaches in Fort Lauderdale, unfortunately, a week ago, right? They're packed with 18 to 22-year-olds having the time of their lives, spreading the virus, okay? And they're probably okay, most of them, the vast majority of them, but when they go home to their parents or they go home to their loved one or their friend who just had breast cancer surgery and, and is immune compromised, they're going to kill that person, okay? And once you have the thought experiment, okay, that, everyone feels, 99% chance I'll be okay, but it's not you. It's the person you give it to. And the paradigm I had, I said, look, I am not going to kill my father, okay?
Yep.
And so I went into lockdown. I went into lockdown almost a month ago, okay, to save my father's life.
Yep.
Okay? You understand? And we've got to save everyone's life. Okay? And then I know this is a business television show, okay? But the other way we save lives is by saving the economy. Okay? And the way you save the economy, almost every business, big business, can survive a month without revenue. Okay? Almost none can survive a quarter without revenue. Okay? 18 months, down 50, 60, 70, 80%, they're all toast. Okay? And by the way, I have enormous respect for Steven Mnuchin. Okay? I think he's doing an excellent job. Okay? But the U.S. Treasury does not have enough money to bail out every company. Okay? So this trillions of dollars we're throwing at saving this industry, saving that industry, it's not going to save the industry. The only thing that's going to save the hotel industry is if we kill the virus, and we kill it now.
Let me address a couple of things. We obviously want to take care of our friends and our families, and as you say, figure out where this economy goes from here. Andrew Ross Sorkin, my colleague, your friend, writes today in the New York Times, and I want your thought on this on the other side. The economic crisis can be solved right now. The government could offer every American business, large and small, and every self-employed and gig worker a no-interest bridge loan guaranteed for the duration of the crisis to be paid back over a 5-year period. I'd like your reaction to that sort of big way of thinking, whether you think the government is going to figure this out and do the right thing. And then I want to ask you something else about what the future of corporate America is going to look like. But your initial thoughts on what Andrew wrote.
Respectfully, Andrew's wrong. Okay? You can't borrow your way out of the problem. The problem is not the economy. The president is correct. This is one of the greatest economies that we've ever had. Okay? Every company that we own had the best January, they've ever had. Okay? The consumer was in an unbelievable place. Okay? The banks are really, really well capitalized. Okay? They were. Okay? But you got to win the war. Okay? You can't lend your way out of the war. You got to kill the virus. The virus dies, okay, if we minimize transmission. Okay? We know that if we wait we wait a month, okay, and everyone stays home, okay, other than absolutely essential services. And yes, there are a lot of Americans that are sick. There are a lot of Americans that need to go to a hospital. But on the trajectory we are on right now, we're going to overwhelm the New York City healthcare system in a very short period of time. That's why they're moving ships into New York City. Okay, that's what the message is. Okay, the same thing's true as Hackensack in New Jersey. The same thing's going to be true in every major city in the country. And then it's, the canary in the coal mine are the places where everyone flew back from China. Okay, think about Milan, right? You have the Milan fashion show. You have this huge outbreak in Italy, right? And so they shut the Milan fashion show. And 100,000 people go home. And they go home to Paris, London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, all over the world, okay? And some percent of them, okay, have the virus, and it spreads, okay? And by the way, the president has to do this. He's the leader of the free world, but every other nation in the world is going to follow. I was just on the phone with a friend from Brazil, okay? And the president of Brazil, okay, is effectively holding rallies in the last couple of days with hundreds of thousands of people out, okay? Brazil is going to be devastated, okay, unless it shuts this down immediately. Okay.
So the other point, I know we're running out of time, but the other point I do want to bring up with you, because I think it's important to discuss sort of what we're going to look like on the other side of this. That's from the human perspective and the corporate perspective as well. Mark Cuban was on our air earlier today. He thinks big, and he's been a leader in sharing his voice as well, I think it's fair to say, in all of this. He says a year after this plays out, we're going to look back and say, why didn't we consider the workers, the everyday hourly worker, the people making minimum wage? Why don't we reward them as well? Let's get ahead of it, and whatever we do in a bailout, make sure that every worker gets compensated and gets treated equally. He also says, part two, no buybacks. Not now, not a year from now, not 20 years from now, not ever, because effectively you're spending taxpayer money to buy back stock. And to me, that is just the wrong way to do that. I bring that up because Starbucks announced a buyback today. Do we need to think about, and you're on a number of boards, you have been and you will be in the future, is that right? Is that a right policy to still have buybacks when some of these businesses are going to be saved from crumbling?
Yeah, so I called the CEOs of a number of our companies, okay, and told them my concerns, okay, the companies we're closest to, and to stop the buyback programs, to husband resources, to draw down their credit lines, because hell is coming, okay? And I felt, it's really, I've never had this experience before in my life. The closest I had was the financial crisis, where I'm saying, things are coming, bad stuff's coming. But this was a feeling like I've never had, like there's a tsunami coming, right? The tsunami's coming in, you feel it in the air, right? The tide starts to roll out, okay? And on the beach, people are playing and having fun like there's nothing going on. And that is the feeling I've had for the last 2 months, okay? And my colleagues at work, okay, thought I was a lunatic, okay? A lunatic. Okay, I did stuff I've never done before. I've never had more than like $200 in my wallet, okay? I went to the bank and I took out a large amount of money in cash because of this concern. I made preparations. This is a month ago, okay, more than a month ago. And again, it's all irrelevant what's happened in the past. I just think the bottom line is it's a really simple answer. I'm very confident the White House is considering it, but what's scaring the American people and corporate America is the gradual rollout, okay, of what's going on. We need to shut it down now. Shut it down now. Look, it happens to be spring break, but it's kind of analogous. The Chinese had their lunar, holiday, right? And so the government just extended it, okay? Well, it's spring break now. A lot of people are going to take these 2 weeks off anyway. So extend it for a month at home, okay? How hard is that? Compare that to going to war, right? Compare that to getting on, one of those boats, and storming the beach. It's nothing. It's not a sacrifice, okay? It's easy. It's simple. And by the way, the moment the president goes on TV and says, this is what we're doing, the stock market will take off, because this will set the time frame. Now, by the way, it's a month, and then we have to be careful afterwards, okay? We can't just go back to our old ways. We have to follow all the procedures they're talking about now until there's a vaccine, okay? And the good news is capitalism works, okay? Every scientist, drug company in the world wants to save the world, okay? And they're hugely motivated reputationally, economically, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so I'm reasonably confident we're going to get a vaccine in the next 12 to 18 months. But it's not a certainty.
Do me a favor. Sit tight just for 2 seconds. Bill, did you hear that report?
I did hear it, and it's just further evidence of what I'm telling you. The corporate America is in shutdown right now. Okay, it just doesn't know it yet, or it knows it yet, but no one else knows it yet. Okay, every hotel is going to shut, every one of them. Okay, except ones that have government workers in a particular location for whatever reason. Other than that, they're all going to shut. Okay, airlines are going to stop flying. Okay, an airline without revenues, okay, is toast. Okay, and you can bridge the airline for a shorter period of time. Okay, but you can't bridge it for years. Okay, the airline industry goes bankrupt, the hotel industry goes bankrupt, the restaurant industry goes bankrupt, and by the way, private equity goes bankrupt, okay? Blackstone is a fabulous private equity firm, KKR, they do a tremendous job, but every one of their companies has a lot of leverage, okay? every one of their companies goes bankrupt if this thing rolls out over 18 months.
And yet, I know we're gonna finish this interview, and some who have listened and listened intently are gonna say, you know, on one hand, Bill scared the living you-know-what out of me, and now I'm even more concerned than I was before, and yet he's buying stocks. So you must have a level of belief in you that we're going to do what you suggest and that we will emerge better on the other side.
Yes. Okay. Because this is the only answer. Okay. And if the president hasn't already gotten to this answer, okay, he will get there very, very soon. Okay. He's a very smart man. He's motivated to do what's in the best interest of the American people. Okay. He wants to get reelected in November. November is not very far away. And if he can save the country from the coronavirus, he will get reelected, okay? But if we're in a long, drawn-out disaster where the airline industry goes bankrupt, every industry each month, okay, name a sector, it's toast, and I can rank order them, okay? And they're all going to go, okay? He's not going to get reelected, and it's going to be a shit show, if you excuse the expression, okay? We can fix it. Super simple, okay? 30-day spring break, America, okay? And, you know, by the way, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to focus all of our resources on amping up our healthcare system, creating more ICU beds. You know, we should be immediately building more ventilators, figuring out how they can serve more than one patient. We need Elon Musk creating a better ventilator fast, okay? Take the Tesla factory and turn it into ventilator factory, okay? So we need to do two things. We need to shut down. You know, everyone's got to work from home, live at home, et cetera. If they can't work from home, they're going to get checks from the government, okay? And by the way, the vast majority of companies, certainly big companies, will absolutely take care of their workforce during this interim period of time. They can't do it for 18 months. They can do it for 30 days, okay? They can do it for, and we're there. And we'll get through this.
Do you still?
By the way, other countries will follow our lead, okay? Brazil needs to do this immediately, okay? Because they don't have the healthcare system we have. They have an enormous population. Millions of people could die.
But do you think, though, that we're working out some sort of bottom? You must, if you're willing to put money into the market with the views you have right now. I mean, I think Twitter is going to explode over the people saying he's talking like we're having the end of the world, and that he's putting money into the stock market.
The America will end as we know it. Okay, I'm sorry to say so. Okay, unless we take this option. Okay. And therefore, I believe it is a certainty in the very short term, okay, that the president's going to go on TV and he's going to say, America, it's time to go on spring break at home, okay? That's not a big sacrifice. And anyone who can come out of retirement as a nurse or as a doctor or as a healthcare worker who wants to help out, that's the war that we're fighting, okay, to save the hundreds of thousands, millions of people, okay, who will die if we don't jump on this now.
That's all our time today, Bill. I do appreciate you coming on, telling America what you're thinking, both short-term and long-term, and we'll see what happens in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.